Welcome to Fabulous Women Over 40, hosted by celebrity stylist Kara Allan. Join Kara as she interviews amazing women, sometimes younger and amazing men as well, in their 40s and beyond. Here's Kara with our Fabulous Woman of the Day.
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Fabulous Women Over 40 podcast. I'm your host, Kara Allan, a personal stylist and branding expert with over 22 years of experience helping women and men create powerful presences through their appearance. This podcast is dedicated to celebrating the incredible women and men who are over 40, redefining what it means to be fabulous at any age. Today's guest is someone I've admired for years, a true pioneer in the world of women's financial empowerment and personal transformation. Barbara Huson, formerly known as Barbara Stanny, is a best-selling author, wealth coach, and a woman who has helped thousands of others rewire their relationship with money, power, and possibility. Her previous books like Overcoming Underearning, Secrets of Six-Figure Women, and Sacred Success have become go-to guides for women ready to reclaim their worth. And today, she's here to share the wisdom from her brand new book, The Rewire for Wealth, a powerful method that blends neuroscience, mindset, and soul work to help us move through fear, stress, and self-sabotage, and into the radiant lives we were born to lead. If you've ever felt stuck in old patterns, held back by doubt, or overwhelmed by life's transitions, this episode is for you. So grab your favorite drink and get ready to be inspired by a woman who proves that no matter your age or stage, you can still rewrite your story and your wealth. Welcome back, Barbara. I'm so happy to have you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And thank you for that lovely introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. You are so worthy of it, ma'am. So worthy. So your name and your legacy is synonymous with women's wealth empowerment. And for those who may not know your full journey, can you briefly share how you went from struggling with money to becoming a leading voice in financial and personal transformation?
Yeah, it amazes me. It amazes me where I've come from. So I grew up in a wealthy family. I didn't understand money. I just wanted to spend it. And whenever I asked my father any money question, he'd always say, "Don't worry." And under that was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you, which I loved. I loved it. I didn't understand money, and there was always a man. First there was my father, then there was my husband, who was a stockbroker. So he was perfect, right?
Right.
But what I found out very early in our marriage is that he was a compulsive gambler. And every year I'd find out he was gambling away my money, my inheritance. And here's the insane part, Kara. For 15 years, I continued to let him manage the money, even though I knew he was gambling it away, because that's how intimidated I was and terrified by anything financial. Finally, after 15 years, I decided I got a divorce.
Yeah.
I decided money's not my thing. I did not want to deal with money. Well, I have this theory that if you don't deal with your money will deal with you. And in the next year, I got tax bills for way over $1 million, almost $2 million, $1,800,000 and something. I did not have $1 million, not close to it. My ex had left the country and my father wouldn't lend me the money. And that's when I knew I had to get smart. So I did what you're supposed to do. I read the books. I went to the classes. My eyes would glaze over. My brain would fog. I just felt terminally stupid. But I had three daughters. I had 3 daughters. One was just a baby. I was not going to raise those girls on the street.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to do it. I really didn't. But but I did. I figured it out. And I not only figured it out, but I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, How Women Get Smart About Money. And suddenly I was traveling all over the world doing financial education for women, but I couldn't make money.
Yeah.
And so I interviewed women who made 6 figures or more, and I started making 6 figures before I even finished writing the book. And now here we are, 8 books later, I'm talking to you as a financial expert.
You know, they say, what is the saying? If you, whatever you need to learn, you teach,
You
something
teach,
like that.
you teach what you need to learn. And what I
Yeah,
do is I write what I need to learn. I'm never an expert on what I write.
right.
I
That's
write
amazing.
it to learn it.
I love that. And you've written all these books, and they're all multiple. They're all bestsellers, right? Like Overcoming Underearning, Sacred Success, Rewire for Wealth. What inspired this book, and how's it different from your past work?
So it's so different. So I've always written books about empowering women because
Hmm.
you teach what you need to learn. I want to be empowered. And
Right.
around, I don't know, I guess it was around 2015, 2016, all of a sudden I started losing interest in my work.
Hmm.
And I started dreading going to work. And this shocked me. It's like, what? This
What's
is
happening?
like more, yeah, this is like more than a job. This is like my ministry. This is my
Yeah.
passion. This is my mission.
Hmm.
But I couldn't get into it. I couldn't work. So I just thought I surrendered. I didn't know what's
Mm.
going on. I felt like something was missing. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'm not supposed to be working. Maybe it's time to retire. I didn't know.
Mm.
But what I did is I just surrendered to it. I kind of took a lot of stuff off my calendar and I just asked for guidance. What's going on? And one day I was sitting in my computer. I was looking through my email and in came an article on neuroscience. Now, I knew nothing about neuroscience, but I read this article and I swear it was like my brain must have lit up like a Christmas tree. It was like, this is it. This is the missing piece. This is
Mm.
what I didn't even know I was looking for. But
Right.
I spent 7 years studying neuroscience and integrating what I was learning with my clients. And I
Mm.
saw that if you combine if you combine just personal finance with neuroscience and psychology and the deeper work, it really expedited the learning curve.
Mm.
And so that's when I wrote my last book, Rewire for Wealth.
I love that. So, how does this change how women respond to stress, fear, and uncertainty, or does it do that? What's is it just about rewiring the brain for wealth, or like what's the
No,
crux?
you can rewire it for wealth or anything you want.
Okay.
It's all about rewiring your brain. Because
Mm.
let me explain. All our behavior, everything
Mm-hmm.
we do is controlled by our brain. And our
Mm-hmm.
brain is a organ, physical organ in our skull, right?
Right.
And the brain determines, the neural pathways determine what we do, what we say, how we,
Mm-hmm.
everything. But the brain is shaped by the mind. And the
Mm.
mind is an intangible, it's not a physical organ, it's an intangible source of our thoughts and feelings. And it's those
Nice.
thoughts and feelings that sculpt our brain. So
Mm-hmm.
trying to change our behavior or wait, are those your kids?
That was my text message. Sorry, forgot to turn my phone on.
Oh my goodness.
I'm.
It sounded like kids playing.
They're the minions, from the cartoon movie. So
Oh,
that's what it is.
I love that
So,
part.
sorry, I hope I didn't let you lose your train of thought there.
No problem. So
Uh,
anyway, so where were we?
You were talking about how the mind
Oh,
is
yeah.
different than the brain.
So if you want to change your behavior, if you try to just change your behavior, it's like going against gravity. It's really a
Mm-hmm.
struggle. But if you work on changing your thoughts and feelings, you will start weakening those neural pathways, start building new ones. And that will really speed up your change a lot. I've watched
Mm-hmm.
it. It's incredible.
Nice.
Yeah, it's helped me a lot.
Yeah. That's always good. Well, you learned what you needed to teach, right?
Right.
So that's important. And a lot of women are going through these life transitions like divorce or career changes or empty nesting, all these things. So how does this help them take back control like with through this
Well,
transition? Because a lot of people just sort of like fight or flight, right? They like freak out or they don't know what to do or get depressed. You know what I mean?
here's the thing. You need to start observing your thoughts. So I'm going to put it in the field of money because that's my area of expertise. But
Mm-hmm.
you can do it with anything. But let's say you're having a problem with money. There's just never enough.
Right.
There's never enough. And you notice yourself thinking a lot. There's never enough. And you're seeing there's never enough.
Right.
So if you have been saying there's never enough, that you have been deepening that neural pathway that tells us it's never enough. And there's
Right.
the thing is called confirmation bias, that our brain will not see, will not say, will not do anything that does not confirm its belief. And
Right.
every thought you keep thinking over and over again that turns into a deeply embedded neural pathway becomes a belief. So,
Right.
and you will unconsciously make sure to do everything in your power unconsciously to prove your belief is correct. You will not have it. So it's important to notice when you think that thought that's causing you problems, there's never enough, and start changing it. And I can tell you how to do that. I came up with 3 steps.
Okay.
So let's say you're in a frustrating situation. I could use no money, but it could be anything. You're going through a divorce. I've been through 2 of them. And you go through a divorce and you go, oh my God, this is so hard. This is just really difficult. This is really hurting. Whatever it is, just notice the thoughts that keep coming through. Notice. So the first step, let me give you the 3 steps and then I'll go through each one.
Okay.
The 3 steps are: first, you recognize. Second, you reframe. And third, you respond differently. And you do these 3 steps over and over. The only way that rewiring works is through repetition.
Got it.
So let's say, we'll stick with mine, there's never enough. You recognize the thought. Oh, but you recognize a certain way. You recognize it with curiosity, not with criticism, not with judgment. Oh, damn it, I'm thinking that thought again. How stupid of me. No.
Yeah.
You go, oh, isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought there's never enough. And what that does is it separates you from the thought, because the thought isn't real. It's just something you've been thinking over and over. It separates you. So, oh, isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought there's never enough. The second step is I need to reframe it. I need to see it differently. How can I see it differently? So instead of every time you have that, you recognize it, then you reframe it and you say it the opposite of what it is. And you won't believe it. And you will not believe it at first.
Right.
Of course you won't believe it. It's the repetition that causes it to become a belief. So you say, oh, there's plenty of money. Or making money is so easy for me. Or I got this. I know how to make more. Whatever it is for you, find a reframe that resonates, even if it doesn't feel right. And you just keep saying it over and over again. So every time you have the thought, there's never enough. Oh, there's plenty. And then you act. The third step, you respond differently, which you act as if that reframe was true. So you say, oh, there's plenty. That doesn't mean you go out and spend as if there's plenty. You maybe take some money, extra money, and start putting it in the bank. Start putting it in a savings account. Or there's plenty, but I want to make sure. And you do all the things, respond differently by saving or not spending, or to make sure there's more than enough. And you keep doing that over and over again, and you won't want to. Nothing in your body will want to, because the brain doesn't want to change. It wants to keep with that neural pathway. So the idea is, it takes a couple weeks to respond differently. It won't feel right. It will not feel comfortable. If it feels right, if you respond differently and it feels right, you're doing it wrong.
Okay.
It will not feel, it's not your normal default mode. That's what you want to change, your normal default mode. So you recognize the thought that's producing the result you don't want. You reframe it to something you'd rather have, and you respond differently as if that reframe is true. And you do it over and over and over again.
Right. And like you said, repetition is what makes the change, because the first couple times you say you're not going to believe it, you're going to be like, yeah, right, I have $0 in my bank account.
First 20
Right.
times, the first 30 times you say, it's not going to feel normal. You're not going to want to do it. Your ego's going to say, no, 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 this is not safe. No, no, no.
Mhm.
Yeah. But it works. It takes discipline. It takes
Yeah.
mental discipline.
Yeah. And definitely like emotion, like there's someone else that I talk to a lot that talks about regulating your nervous system, because a lot of times that comes from, I don't know, say you grew up in a household that didn't have a lot of money, and there was always this thing of we never have enough, we never have enough, we never. So that's sort of like you said, inbuilt into you already, because it was drilled into your head that we don't have enough, don't ask for anything because we don't have it. So now they have to kind of, like you said, rebuild it by like re-saying it, but also regulating that nervous system, because it's like your nervous system starts getting inflamed when it comes up in your head too.
Well, because early trauma lives in your any trauma lives
Mhm,
in your
mhm,
nervous system. So
mhm,
if you grew up in poverty or any kind of scarcity,
mhm,
your nervous system will become triggered.
mhm.
You will go into fight and flight. And that's why
Yes.
so many of my clients, I refer to trauma therapists,
Mhm.
because talking therapy will not heal trauma.
Yeah.
You have to do the deeper brain work.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's definitely something to consider while you're doing this work as well, for
Oh,
sure.
for sure.
So you've also said that financial power is like a spiritual journey for women. And how do mindset and money intersect in rewiring your for wealth?
Well, you asked a question. Is it? Are we going to talk about power, or because here?
Well,
Let's go with that, because
yeah.
I saw from the very beginning. I work exclusively with women.
Mhm.
I saw when I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming: How Women Get
Mhm.
Smart About Money. I interviewed women
Mhm.
who were smart with money, because that's how I
Right.
wanted to learn, and that's how I learned. But what I found, no one pops out of the womb knowing about money.
Right.
And what I found, that these women, when they became financially responsible, what kept them from it for so long was their fear of or ambivalence about power.
Mm.
I absolutely believe that what keeps so many women from being financially successful
Right.
is their fear of power, because we don't understand power, what it means.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
define I define power as a powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and
Mhm.
expresses that in the world unapologetically. So
Right.
essentially, our fear of power is our fear of speaking up, of being an authority in our lives. And
Mhm.
instead, we water ourselves down so we don't make waves.
Right.
But it's important that we become a container by
Mhm.
owning our power, that we can become a container that can attract, that can grow, and that can sustain our wealth.
Mhm. Yeah. That's an interesting point. And it's worth noting that your father, who was the H, right? In H&R Block?
It was the R.
It
Richard
was the R.
H was my Uncle Henry.
Uncle Henry. So, and that, having a legacy of like that, and a father who was just like, yeah, don't worry about it all. And then that bleeds into your marriage, because it's like, oh, I've always been taken care of. I'm not going to start worrying about it now. So, what would you say to women who have had that similar thing? Like, how should they start to educate themselves about money, and being able to stop being afraid of it, or just wanting, being a not, worrying about it, because you should know what's going on.
Oh,
So
it's
what
really
do you think?
important.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I did,
Mhm.
because it was trying to figure out money really was hard for me. But I
Yeah.
did something really smart. 3 steps. You do these 3 steps, and you do them and because it's so much of getting smart or smarter about money is just consistently, it's small steps
Mm.
consistently taken.
Mhm.
So you do these for 3 or 4 months, and you would be amazed at how much you know, how much you change.
Okay.
First step, every day read something about money, even if it's just for a minute or two. Even
Okay.
if you just take the business section of the newspaper and you look at the headlines and that's all you do. Or before you go to bed at night, you have a money book and you read one paragraph. Or you're standing in line at the market, you take out Money magazine or instead of People magazine and leaf through it. Because so
Right.
much of getting smart or smarter is just familiarizing ourselves with the current trends, with the jargon. So what I did is so many of the women I interviewed subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. So I subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. And I didn't understand a word it said. And that sucker came every day. So I did something really smart. I put it on the kitchen counter. And every day I'd walk by it and I'd figure by osmosis, I'd pick something up. And I did. So every day, read something about money, even if it's just for a minute or two. Second, every week, have a conversation about money, preferably with someone that knows more than you. Now, I believe it is our secrecy and silence around money that keeps us stuck. So I started anybody I met who I perceived was smart about money, I would say, can I pick your brain? Can we go out for tea? Or I just start asking them questions. How did you get so smart? What was the best advice someone gave you? What was the worst advice? What was the biggest mistake you made? What did you read? What would you recommend I do? And people were so generous in sharing their experiences, and this was so helpful.
Yeah.
Every day read, every week talk to somebody, find out, pick their brain. Every month save, automatically have a certain amount of money transferred from your checking account or your payroll check into a savings account. Not much. Start with $5, start with $2. I don't care. But it's that consistency, and you do it automatically. The bank just does it, so you don't have to think about it. So it's mindless saving. And you can do the same thing then as you are reading and you're talking to people and you're learning about investing. You can do the same thing. They call dollar cost averaging, have a little bit of money every day set aside, every week, every month set aside for investing. So every day read, every week talk, and every month save.
Love that. That's amazing. Okay. And now, so you've mentored all these different women. What do you believe was a common thread or what you heard or what they told you was a common thread that they all talked about that held them back from stepping into their wealth brilliance or their money brilliance? Like what did they all kind of have the same common theme about?
Oh, there's so many reasons, but I believe it all boiled down to three.
Okay.
Well, the big reason, the common thing that they didn't know, they didn't say, was their fear of ambivalence about power, of really speaking up, of really owning their authority.
Right.
That was number one. But then I saw, especially with women with making money, and this is for men too. This is for men too. Number one is we give away our knowledge, our skills, our experience for free or bargain prices because we don't believe we're worth more. There's this little voice in our head that says, who do you think you are? And so we water ourselves down.
Yeah.
Second, we are notoriously codependent. We put everybody else's needs before our own. And not only our family and friends, but our coworkers and perfect strangers. This sounds noble, but self-denial always leads to anger, to pain, to resentment, and often illness. Not the stuff success is made of. But as we put ourselves first, and we feel guilty, which brings to the third and biggest reason women aren't more financially successful is because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Because success in anything, I don't care if it's making more money or losing more weight, it's always found just outside our comfort zone. So I have a thing on a thing, scare yourself every day. And I do. I'm always scared. But when I get scared, I go, then I go, oh, goody. That means I'm going to the next level. So go where you fear, because that's where you succeed.
That. Scare yourself every day. Okay, I'm gonna work on that. I like it. So now, how do you personally define wealth at this chapter in your life? Like, coming from all of that to teaching women about money, learning about it. Like, how do you define wealth now for yourself?
Well, for myself and for everybody, to me,
Mm,
wealth is not an amount. I say that because I know women who have millions and millions, and they feel scared. They feel financially scared. They
mm,
feel insecure. And I know women who have less and feel bountiful.
yeah.
So I define wealth as having more than you need, and you know it.
Mm,
So what is more than you need for you and what's more than I need may be very different. But the key is we know it. I know
hmm
I have more than I need. And that to me is wealth. The root word for wealth comes from the Latin word weal, W-E-A-L, which means well-being. And
mm,
to me, the whole point of having wealth is the well-being it gives you,
mm.
the peace and the security.
That's
So
true.
I don't care how much money you have, if you don't have that peace and you don't have security, then it's not working. It's just not
Mhm.
working.
Yeah. It makes sense why there's a lot of unhappy wealthy people, right? I mean,
There's a lot of unhappy poor people too.
well,
So
that too. Yeah. There's a lot of both.
money doesn't make us happy and it doesn't
Yeah.
make us sad. It's what causes us to be poor or what causes us to be wealthy and what's going
hmm
on inside.
Yeah. I remember Prince saying one time in a song, he said, money doesn't make you happy, but it pays for the search,
Oh, that's good. That's good.
which I thought was pretty funny. What's the other thing I was gonna? You touched on something, and my brain, my like I was saying, my brain just goes somewhere else. But so, like when we think about it now, when people are wanting to start investing, do you have any advice about that? Like, how do you choose what to invest in, as far as stocks or bonds or mutual funds or whatever? Do you have any advice about that?
Oh yeah. I learned the hard way. So right after I got divorced, I didn't know anything about money. I was studying it, but I wasn't learning anything.
Mm,
And I decided, someone said, "Oh, you got to invest." I don't know, this was in 1986.
mm,
And I found a stockbroker and I invested. A
mm-hmm.
little bit I had, but I invested it. That was 1986. I didn't know what I was in. He'd send me those statements and all the stuff they'd send you, and I'd throw them away. I wouldn't look at them. 1987 came around. October 1987. October 19th. That was probably
Mm,
before your time, but they called it Black Monday because that was the biggest crash we had had since the Depression. The market crashed. I freaked out. I called my broker. I said, sell everything. He said, please, Barbara, don't tell. And don't tell. You're, the market's going to go back up. It always does. You're going to have capital gains tax to pay. I did not know what capital gains tax was. I didn't trust the market. I sold everything. Within a week, it went back up. And I would have been a lot wealthier today had I not.
mm,
So that was a lesson for me. And the
yeah.
lesson was never invest in anything that you don't understand, whether it's a stock or bond or the market itself. Because not
Right.
only do you not know what you're buying, but you don't know when to sell and you don't know how to evaluate the information you're getting.
Mm,
So I would say I gave myself a year. I don't think you need that much time, but I gave myself a year to really learn about investing. And I did those 3 steps every day. I read, every week I talked, every month I saved. I read, I went to classes. And so that's the first step, is educate yourself. Educate yourself.
mm-hmm.
And there's some great resources. But and I think that's where to start,
Yeah.
because and I believe in getting help. I believe in working with someone to help you. At least the women that I've interviewed with all my books that were the wealthiest
Mhm.
were not the ones that made the most money, but they had the ones that worked with financial professionals, preferably a team of them. They had an investment advisor. They had an estate planner. They had a CPA. So get yourself a good team, and my team talks to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's something you need to do alone. Now, there's something called robo investing, which
Yeah.
I'm crazy about. I think it's the best invention that's come along. It allows you to invest very low cost. The fees are very important. So it's really critical when you are investing and you are using something to make sure that the fees are low, 1% or under. But if you do if you do the robo investing, you get a financial plan and they invest in that financial plan and the fees are really low because a computer is doing it for you,
Okay.
not a person. So
Right.
I'm a big fan of that.
I'll have to check that out. One other thing that I thought was interesting was that you write most people don't change because they're afraid, but not just of failure, but of success. So why do you think that is, especially for women?
They're afraid of success because we're afraid of anything that is unknown and unpredictable. Because
Mm-hmm.
our brain was designed from the beginning of time for our survival and our safety.
Right.
So anything that is unknown, unpredictable, unfamiliar doesn't feel safe to our brain.
Yeah.
And so success for many of us feels scary. Like
Yeah.
so many of my clients are afraid of if they have too much, what'll happen? They'll lose it. So what'll happen if they become too successful? I'll tell you what happened to me so I started studying about money and I started going to classes and learning and talking to people, doing everything I was telling everyone to do.
Right.
But I still couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. And so
Yeah.
I went to a therapist and I sat down and I said, Daniel, I really want to learn about money. I really do. You've got to help me. I really want to learn about money. And he looked me in the eye and he said, no, you don't. And it's like, I couldn't argue. It's like he took the air out of my emotional balloon. And it's like, I realized that there was a part of me that did not want to become financially successful. And
Mm-hmm.
as I talked to him, I realized that there was a part of me that was afraid that if I became successful or I tried to manage money, I'd lose it all. But let my husband do that. I was afraid that my parents would be angry with me because they didn't think women should make or manage money. And I was really afraid that a man wouldn't love me if I was financially successful. So
Wow.
I had to do that deeper work of looking at all the unconscious blocks and barriers I have
Mm-hmm.
to money. And once I did that, once I freed myself, once I healed those old wounds and those old messages,
Mm-hmm.
I was off and running. So basically, getting smart about money is, to me, a four-pronged process.
Mm-hmm.
There's the outer work of wealth. That's,
Right.
telling the difference between a stock and a bond and how to negotiate, all the things they tell you.
Right.
When you have trouble with that, like I did, and many,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it's time to do what I call the inner work of wealth. That is looking at the emotional, psychological barriers you have, the attitudes, beliefs, and decisions you made about yourself and money.
Mm-hmm.
And the third prong is the spiritual prong. That's the higher work of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned and what studies have shown us is once a woman is financially stable, she's not motivated by money anymore. Yeah, she wants to make money. She wants to make money.
Right.
But what really motivates her is the opportunity to help others, to give back to her community. So when you can get your why you want to be financially successful, why you want more money, that's the motivator for most of us. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's that fourth prong, which is new in my vocabulary for the past, I don't know, 8-10 years, is the deeper work of wealth. That's the mind-brain connection.
Mm-hmm. And that's sort of more of a holistic approach, would you say? Like
I would
more
say
than
so, yes.
yeah. So how is that? It's so interesting because I think we're so used to a certain I don't know, approach. And so when you start adding all of this holisticness, what do you get a lot of resistance from your clients when you start talking about?
Not women.
No,
But my
no.
only clients are women. No, they
Yeah.
get it. I think the financial industry is very left brain,
Hmm,
very
hmm.
male oriented. It's not about feelings. It's not about. So I would think I would have that problem with men, which is why I don't work with men. I only work with.
Yeah.
But
Right.
no, I have never had any pushback because most women know that this is a very emotional subject. And they have
Hmm,
been conditioned and programmed from an early age because our relationship with money, our patterns with money are inherited from our
hmm.
families, from our educational system, from society. So,
Right.
yeah.
Wow. So now, say a woman wants to come and work with you. What's your is there like steps that happen? Do you work with people individually? Do you work with them in groups? Like, what's your approach when new client comes in and says, "Hey, I got money mindset issues. What are we gonna do with it? How do I get rid of this?"
So, yeah, I work with women, but I only work with women who are
Hmm.
part of my community. I have an online
Okay.
community called the Wealth Connection. And I
Hmm.
created this about 8 years ago when I read all these studies about how women learn best about
Hmm.
money in collaboration with other women. That a part of their brain actually lights up when they are working with other women to understand money. So I
Mm.
have a wonderful community. And so, and then from that, who are in the community, they can make an appointment with me. But their learning curve is just so much quicker, and they're so
Mm.
much more open. And they because it's support for us women, we are so relational that
Hmm.
we we do best when we have support. So that's what's important. So yeah, so that's how it's the Wealth Connection. It's $47 a month. It's very affordable. And you can
Hmm.
learn about it on my website, Barbara-Huson, Huson.com.
And I just have to give you your flowers for what I experienced when I first met you and I had read Prince Charming Isn't Coming years ago, and I think I also read Six Figures of High Earner. I
Like,
forget what the title is.
yeah. Uh, oh my God, I can't remember it. Secrets of Single Women.
Yes, I was like, I know I have it. Let me find it real quick.
Oh, I
But
have
yeah,
two.
so I had read that. I had read both of those some time ago. So then when it was 2015, I believe it was, when you were in Mama Gina's School of the Womanly Arts,
Is that how we met?
that is how we met.
Hmm.
What was it, 2015, or it might have been maybe shortly thereafter? But I remember you were there, and she talked to you on the stage about it, and I bought the rest of your books, The Sacred Success and Overcoming Underearning. So I'm only like 3 weeks into reading this book, and randomly I get a phone call from a law firm, and I'm thinking, and they left a message, and I was like, did I not pay something that's in collections or something? Like, why is a law firm calling me? This is weird. So because they didn't give me any information, they just said, "Can you call us back?" So I called back, and they were like, "Hey, we're part of this big lawsuit that's happening in I think it's whatever the mall is, White Flint, here in Maryland. Apparently the Lord and Taylor there has, like, they don't do 5-year leases, right? They do like 50-year leases with wherever they were in a mall or whatever. And so that mall was like in disrepair, and they had closed the mall to refix it. And so that Lord and Taylor sued them because it was part of in their um lease, their agreement, that you had to keep the mall open or whatever. So they weren't getting much foot traffic, obviously, because there was no mall. So what they wanted me to do was, as a personal shopper, was come and review that. The mall management was hiring me, not Lord and Taylor, to review that particular store and several other in the market, and see, were they really losing foot traffic, or it was because they weren't good with customer service or blah blah blah, right? So I'm thinking, like, okay. And they paid me my hourly rate, and I had to do this for like 3 or 4 months. And this was the biggest check I'd ever gotten in my life. Okay. And it was so funny because this literally happened maybe 2 months into Mama Gina's thing, right after I had started reading it. And I was like, how in the world? Like, it was a random thing, I thought, but it was really everything that I hadn't even finished the book. And I was just already absorbing the concepts, or like how they say, if you start something, it's already happening. And that was it blew my mind. And I ended up with a 5-figure check that I had to worry about, deal with the taxes on. But that was the least of the problem. But I was like, Barbara did that for me. That was so amazing.
Well, you did that for you. You created
Yeah.
that. You drew that to you. But I'm glad that my book was helpful.
Yes, it was amazing. And I've read all the rest of the books too. So I'm excited to read this one because I didn't even know it was out until I was on your website, because I still get your emails. And I was like, she's in the book. I need to get it. And then I said, I need to interview her again too, because this is a great concept and everybody needs to hear about it. Not just about your wealth, but about anything in your life, right? So
thank you.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for you. And I'm so excited for everybody that's going to be a part of reading your book. So tell us, everybody, where they can find it. And you already talked about your course, where they can find you, but where can they find your book? On your website too?
The best place is to go to Amazon. It's just the best place. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. And if you have any women that are listening to you right now and thinking like, I'm too far gone, or it's too late for me to change, what would you say to her right now?
It's never, never too late. There's a Chinese saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today.
Right?
Never, ever, ever too late. Ever.
I love it. Yes. Well, Barbara, it's always been a pleasure talking to you. You're always full of wisdom, and just every time I get more nuggets that I'm in the middle of my 50s now, so things are changing too. Everything's changing. Not just that, but life is changing. So it's always great to talk to someone like you and to just get more inspired about how great life can get.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
You're welcome. So thank you everyone for listening. Definitely check out Barbara's course and her book, and we will see you on the next episode of Fabulous Women Over 40. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for joining us today. Please subscribe so you won't miss our next conscious conversation with Kara and her fabulous guests. Follow Kara on social, on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Clubhouse, @Kara Allan, and connect with her on her website at karaallan.com. Also, leave a review if you enjoyed the conversation. Thanks again, and see you next time.